beautiful soul, and welcome to Back to the Beginning Root Cause Conversations. I'm your host, Mona-Lize, a trauma-informed holistic therapist specializing in healing trauma at its root cause and how that transforms human connection. In this podcast, you can expect deep conversations about trauma healing, navigating your spirituality in this complex 3D world, and real transformation stories from people who've done the work. This is where spiritual depth meets practical reality. So without further ado, let's dive in. Well, hello, beautiful human, and welcome to Back to the Beginning, Root Cause Conversations. I'm your host, Mona-Lize, a trauma and relational therapist, and today we're doing something a little bit different. It's our 10th episode, which I'm extremely happy about, and I have my co-host, my favorite co-host, Candice Anderson, back with me. Welcome, Candice.
Thank you so much for having me again, Mona-Lize. As always, it's such a pleasure, and I love diving into these things with you because I end up learning so much more every time.
Well, if you haven't listened to episode 2, then you haven't met Candice yet. If you have, then you'll know that things get very deep very quickly and very real very quickly. And I was sitting down thinking, how do I introduce her properly? Because it's difficult. And I had to actually really think about how to do this without starting to cry, because you won't be able to hear my words through my sobs. So I had to think about this, right? And if you did listen to episode 2, you'll know she's a property consultant and a medium, and probably one of the few people, or probably the only person I know, who can tell you that your house is haunted and then try and sell it and buy you a new one in the same conversation. So, how do you introduce somebody with such a brilliant sense of humor and who is also unofficially and completely uncompensated in being my therapist? So it's really difficult to explain that and to put that into words about how much you mean to me personally. And thank you for that, because holding space for somebody who is already a therapist is very special. We don't find that often, and I'm so grateful for it.
Oh, you give me tears. Oh, honestly.
No.
I know, but it's so lovely to hear it, really. But it works both ways. Even your friendship to me is so valuable, and it's been such an eye-opener for me on so many different levels. So thank you for being you.
Honey, I have no words, and that's why I went into the whole big spiel, because it's something that's really hard to articulate. And in the lead up to this recording, we were actually talking about how difficult it is to articulate things at the moment, because everything feels so strange.
Very upside down. Upside down.
So yeah, thank you.
Stranger Things, right?
Yeah.
Stranger Things, the upside down.
Upside down. But thank you so much for joining me again for a very special episode, which will be a little bit different. We're going to lighten things up a little bit today, in a way, I suppose. So yeah, I'm just so excited to have you back.
Thank you. So I have to say, I've realized I need to think twice before saying anything funny around you. But why is that exactly?
Well, how do you know somebody is a therapist? They're the only person who can ruin a perfectly good joke by saying, "That's really interesting. Where do you think that comes from?"
That is so true.
It is true. And it does happen. And it makes being a therapist really complicated. And you know this. It can be such a challenge, because the brain doesn't switch off quite like most people. It's not like, you go to work and then you do everything that you need to do and you answer your emails, and then when you're done, you switch off your computer and you get in your car and you go home. The therapist mind doesn't quite work like that. It never really turns off the pattern recognition and for me, it's always about looking for the root cause of something. Like, my brain never switches off, whether it's with myself, whether it's with somebody else, whether it's with my dog. It doesn't happen.
I've realized that, and I'll never forget this. We were all in London, and I said something and it came from a place of frustration. And the way you looked at me as if to say, honey, what is going on? But it's that look you gave me, like, do we need to take this now and kind of break it down? Do we need to talk about it? It was fascinating. I mean, it is quite funny because when we talk about things and I'm talking to you about something, and all of a sudden I go off in a tangent, you give me this look, and then you go, but honey, where's this coming from, do you think?
But you do exactly the same thing for me.
Do I? I don't
Yeah,
notice.
you do. And that's why I'm so grateful. That's the whole thing, because, you know, other than the mind never turning off, you are always your own biggest blind spot. It
Yes.
doesn't matter what you do. You can be the pattern recognition fairy godmother, but your own patterns are blind to you. Doesn't matter what you do.
That's
And
true.
and that's why I'm so grateful for you, because we have the kind of friendship and relationship where you can point these things out to me. And even though it can be really challenging sometimes and my ego pops out and I'm like, no, that's not true.
But you
Normally,
can nice. You can nice.
normally about 3 days later, I'm like, that triggered me because it's true. It's
Yes.
true.
Yes. And then I'll get this lovely message from you going, honey. And I'm just like, my heart just kind of melts. And I'm like, oh, bless her. No, no, not at all. But I mean, the same goes for when you see things for other people and you can see things, but you can't always see things for yourself. It's the same thing. That blind spot is always there because we've got our own internal things going on.
Exactly.
We can't
And
always see it clearly.
sometimes you're not ready to see it because it's
True.
not ready to be healed. Sometimes it's just not the right time because it will disrupt your circumstances in your life. Like, we have to trust, but I firmly believe that something only comes up into your conscious mind as a realization when you are at all levels ready to heal it.
Yes.
And
I see that.
that's why, again, I'm so grateful, because I think you are a big guide for me personally in that. You help me with that. And sometimes you'll say something and I'll go like, I don't know. I like, no. And it won't resonate with me. But maybe 6 months down the line, I'll sit and I'll go, shit, I need to look at this. You said this 6 months ago and now it's coming up, but I wasn't ready 6 months ago.
Oh, but it's interesting because obviously I don't know. I can't remember these things. And it's the same with you. If you'll say something to me and you'll go, but honey, think about it this way. And whatever the situation is, I get that little bit of like and then it's a case of let it go. And then a couple of days later or weeks later, it will be a case of I see exactly where Mona-Lise was coming from. So for that, I'm also grateful. So thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And at the end of the day, we try and do these things with compassion, but it's so difficult because I find with myself, and this was hard for me to acknowledge, but I have less compassion with the people close to me because I carry so much compassion for everybody all the time, every day. And then I look at the people close to me and they make these questionable decisions. And I'm like, but you should know better. And that's really terrible to admit. But I'm human. This happens. I do that to myself, by the way, as well, all the time. I make about 6 questionable decisions every day, and I always question myself after them. But it's hard because it complicates your connections with everybody in your life. It makes it really challenging because they feel, in a way, that you have less compassion for them than you would for
Yes,
a client, which
exactly.
it's not true. Like, in my heart, I carry more compassion for them, but it's like my mind is going, you should know better. I don't want you to go through this. It's a defense and a protective drive that awakens in me. But it's also hard because I can't switch off my mind to, in my connections, not go into the whole over analytical thought spiral of where is this coming from? How can I help you? That's not the root cause of the problem. You know, And you understand this better than anyone because you face the same challenges.
It's difficult. It is difficult.
It's very difficult. But having said that, we laugh so much together because we have both, as I think a coping mechanism, in a way, developed and always really had. I think it's why we're such good friends, but have this terribly dark sense of humor. And for me as a therapist, I know that humor is used as distraction and a deflection, but having a dark sense of humor points at various things for a lot of people. Yeah. But I'm fortunate that everybody around me has this really dark sense of humor. My family has it. It runs very deep in my lineage. And thank goodness the people around me share this dark sense of humor, whether it's a coping mechanism or not.
Yeah, but you need that. It is. It's so much fun when we talk about things and something's going on, and we'll talk seriously about something, but then we do look at it, and you're always good that way. You go, but honey, imagine if, and then we'll just laugh like you can't believe. But it does help, as you said, really, really does, because else we'll just get consumed by all the heaviness and issues.
Especially because collectively, everywhere is heavy right now. Everything is heavy right now. Mm-hmm. And with what we do, we deal with a lot of heaviness every day anyway.
Yeah.
So we have to sort of find something to make it lighter and to sort of still be able to function as normal human beings. You know,
but are we normal, honey?
Normal is a setting on the tumble dryer. We've had this discussion.
Oh God.
But it's hard to maintain sort of some degree of quote unquote normalcy in your life when you deal with these types of things. Like I can prepare for a session with a client, but I can't prepare if they've been through something really heavy and they're sharing that with me. Like I can't always be ready for what's coming my way, and you deal with the same thing.
Exactly. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really, really interesting.
Okay, so with all that in mind, and I'm asking this because I know you, and I know that keeping a straight face is not always your strongest suit. What are the 3 funniest things you have ever heard in a session?
Oh. You know what? This is really an interesting question. And I was actually sitting with this the other day when I was busy with my content, etc. There are a few sentences that I never in my life thought I would say or would come out of my mouth, and they do. And it's interesting. And it becomes really challenging sometimes to keep a straight face. But sort of, if I have to really think about some of the funniest things I've heard, and bear in mind that my sense of humor is fairly dark, there are some that I cannot say on a podcast.
No.
Because I think it's probably only me and about 4 other people on the planet that would laugh at it. But it's dark. So, okay, the one I heard that really made me laugh was, I don't need a man to gaslight me. I can do that all on my own. Or I do that to myself, essentially.
Right.
That to me was funny because it resonates. The other one I heard, this was also fairly recent, and I did laugh, was that this woman was using AI as a soundboard because times were really hard at the moment, and she was going through some things, and she was using AI as a soundboard. And she was like, I just wish it would be meaner to me because it's being too nice, and it feels unfamiliar. I need it to feel more familiar.
Do you know what? I know someone like that who uses AI to talk, and he calls it a certain name. And I just think to myself, oh golly, the only reason you're talking to her in inverted commas is because she's nice to you. You don't want to necessarily hear the full truth.
And this is the opposite. Like,
Oh,
AI
yeah.
is too nice, you know?
Yes.
I found that rather funny.
That is funny.
And then there's another client of mine who shares my sense of humor. And gosh, I laughed. She's like, I know things are going to fall apart. I know it's going to happen. I know it's imploding. I can feel it. So I'll just give it a little nudge just to speed things along.
Oh, no. That is. I actually have an image in my mind. I can't share that either.
No.
It's so
So,
wrong.
it's like, and these things come up and I do find them funny. And I can't always laugh. It depends on the client and how well they've gotten to know me by then as well. But I have found, fortunately, that most of the clients who come to me are thankfully ones with a sense of humor. And this is what I want to lead into, because I think most people with a sense, or at least a dark sense of humor, have gone through some really hard things in life. And that's why they can laugh at the darker things in life, and they can laugh at trauma. And I say this with so much love, but these are genuinely some of the funniest things I've heard, yes, but they're also like some of the saddest. Simultaneously, they are so sad. Like both of these things can be true at the same time. Yeah. Two things can be, even though they're opposite, can be true at the same time. So these are three very funny sentences, but they're also three very sad sentences.
Yes. I mean, for me, and again, I can't remember most of the readings I do, but it's very, very true, because people use that little bit of sense of humor to cope, and exactly as you've been saying. So I can completely understand that. I mean, I think I do it myself. You do it too, I'm
I
sure.
do
We
it.
just do it naturally, just because we know that it will lighten our moods and we won't feel so down and depressed about it.
No, I agree. And when I am going through a lot, you'll know the text that comes through as universe has jokes.
Yes.
Because like then like there's about 3 or 4 things that have happened in a short space of time consecutively, and I'm going like, what the actual fuck is going on?
Your words normally is the universe having a laugh at my expense. And I keep saying, honey, no, just, oh, it's terrible. It's like a car crash waiting to happen. You've just got to see how it ends.
I know. And I've in the last, I would say, 5 years of my life become comfortable in that space, I suppose, of surrendering, of actually really having that faith and trust and surrendering and going, okay, it doesn't really matter what happens. It'll be okay. It might suck for a little bit, but it'll be okay. Like, and that's what I actually want us to get into. We're going to get a little bit deeper here. And I want to get into the wounding beneath these jokes. Okay, so before we go into each wound specifically, I want to talk about something that I think is actually really very, very important. And that's that the role that humor plays when we are in pain as human beings. Because I don't think we talk about this enough.
No, we don't. But I think, with the conversations we've had, and we understand each other really well. And it is true, when we are so hurt, we do rely on each other to help us come out of that by trying to make a joke of it. But it's because we're comfortable with each other that we can actually have that sense of humor, dark sense of humor, but then that care and that compassion is still there.
Absolutely, because again, two things that can exist simultaneously. Dark humor it can sometimes come across as being callous and careless and insensitive and lack empathy and compassion. But I don't think it does that necessarily either, because it does lift people's spirits if they're in the right space for it. And let's talk about the timing of these jokes, because I am terrible at the timing of my jokes sometimes. And I've thankfully become much better at that.
We all put efforts in it.
It's really bad sometimes, but timing is important. We'll get into that in a second. But, humor is one of the most sophisticated defense mechanisms we have as human beings. It's a lot of times, have you noticed how people will joke and make jokes about themselves?
Yes, all the time.
And they'll deflect with humor, and somebody will say something, and then you'll always have, it's almost like Chandler in Friends, and like Robin Williams. He's a wonderful example for masking pain with humor, because we know him as a comedian, right? Yes, he was a brilliant actor, but a deeply, deeply funny man with some serious dark sense of humor on occasion. Yeah. And he ended up taking his own life.
Yeah, it was
heartbreaking. And that was a mask. The humor was a mask.
So sad.
It is. It's very sad. And look, the fact of the matter is that humor works well as a defense mechanism because it's socially acceptable, it's intelligent, it diffuses tension. A lot of us don't deal well with silence and uncomfortable silence and tension in the air, so we'll try and break that with a joke. And that's actually just, it needs to be looked at even harder in that case. Like, don't get me wrong, there's healthy humor. Yeah. And even dark humor is healthy humor. I think laughing is by far the best medicine. If I am feeling really down and terrible, even when I'm sick, laughing makes me feel better. It's just, I don't think we should live a life without laughter. No matter how dark it gets out there.
Yeah.
No matter how dark it gets. But this, using humor to mask your pain is different from the healthy humor, right?
Yeah.
It's different. It's the joking and making yourself look like an idiot because you actually feel like an idiot inside, but you're masking how you really feel with a joke, but it's actually the truth. Yeah.
Exactly. I spoke with somebody recently who's got a lot of problems, very troubled, and haven't seen this individual for a long time, and just gave him a big hug, and he started talking, and I could see he was joking because I've known him since when I was a child, but I could see behind that joking the deep pain and self-judgment was there the whole time. So I completely get that.
And look, we minimize what we're going through as well. We'll go, but with humor. So we'll tell somebody what's going on and it's really bad and it's rough, and then you'll go, oh, but anyway, enough of my sob story. How's it going with you?
Yeah.
We do that as well. And we sort of use it as that barrier between having somebody else ask too many questions because hopefully they're distracted by laughing. And the thing is that the joke is actually a clue.
Yeah.
For me, the joke is a clue.
But you can see that very clearly, which is good.
You're in session and you have a new client and it's just like joke. Then I know, there's a lot lying underneath these jokes, and it takes a while to get there sometimes because people who tell a lot of jokes as deflection also struggle to trust, which I get. And you're sitting in front of somebody and you need to tell them your whole life story again, because this is probably not your first rodeo, but, I'm going to hit them with some jokes too. I do that actually all the time.
It does. It helps.
Look, the fact of the matter is we're surrounded by darkness, like I said earlier. And the only way to really function is to laugh at it.
Yeah, that's all you can do.
We don't really have an option, I don't think, in life at the moment. So yeah. But let's actually get going. Let's get into this. It's something that I really can't help doing. It comes naturally. So I'm sorry. We are going to go a little bit deep. We've laughed enough for one episode. But yeah, we will get into these, and we're going to get into these 3 statements, these 3 sentences, and let's see what we come up with.
Wow. I mean, let's start with the first one, the gaslighting one.
Let's get going. Okay, so this one made me laugh out loud when I heard it. To be honest, I couldn't keep myself from laughing when I heard this, because the self-awareness in it is extraordinary. But let's actually talk about what gaslighting is, because I think it's such an overused, misunderstood term nowadays. It's something I hear it all the time. Everywhere I go, oh, they gaslighted me. And I think pop psychology has kind of screwed this one for us, because I don't think people really understand the true meaning behind what gaslighting really is.
I was going to say, I mean, everybody uses that word, but are they actually using it correctly, though?
Well, no. I think it's overused for general human behavior. And that's why I want to give like just a quick definition on what it actually is in sort of plain language. Gaslighting is a specific and deliberate pattern of psychological manipulation where one person causes another to question their own perception of reality, their memory, or their sanity. The term comes from a 1944 film called Gaslight, where a husband systematically manipulates his wife into believing she is going mad. So this is not, he didn't validate my feelings. That is not what this is. This is, he made me question whether I was sane. There's a difference in that.
Gosh.
There is a difference in that. And this is why I get frustrated, because if you and I are having a conversation and you share your emotions with me and I go, yeah, I get that. I went through the same thing last week. This and this and this happened and it made me feel the same. I'm not gaslighting you. I'm telling you that I went through the same thing. I understand. And it's human nature to immediately draw what you're hearing to your own experience. So when people do that, they're not necessarily trying to turn the conversation around to be about them. They're not trying to invalidate you or make you feel like what you're going through doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're trying to resonate with you.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not always the case of the other person trying to make you believe you're not normal. Again, tumble dryer setting. But it's not always that. Sometimes it's genuinely just human behavior and the other person trying to explain to you that they really do understand where you're coming from. Gaslighting looks like, no, that never happened when it did. Or, no, you're remembering it differently. And look, memory is a bastard. It plays tricks on you. 2 people can remember the same incident completely differently.
Yes.
Because perception plays a role.
Yeah.
So you can't say, like, because if somebody says to you, it did not happen, you made that entire scenario up in your head. To me, that's gaslighting.
Yeah,
but somebody remembering a situation slightly differently to you, that's not gaslighting, that's the human brain. It looks like, oh, you're being too sensitive and hiding behind jokes. Gaslighting is hiding behind jokes. Saying something really hurtful, and I'm not saying joking around as mates, and I'm saying somebody saying something really hurtful and personally like attacking and then masking it as a joke. Not, oh, you've always said this, and then laughing at that's not gaslighting.
No, that's not.
Gaslighting is saying, oh, you've packed on like 60 pounds, haven't you? I'm only joking.
Yeah, it's I mean, that is so mean, isn't it?
That's personal. It's
awful.
But there's a fine line. There's a fine line. And I understand why people mix it up. I do. But I don't think, it's a term that we should throw around loosely, which is what's happening at the moment. Gaslighting is not disagreeing with somebody. Having a different opinion to somebody else is not gaslighting.
Exactly.
Blaming, I think people sometimes use gaslighting to place blame as well. They'll say, oh, this person is gaslighting me, just to avoid having to take the responsibility of what they actually need to be dealing with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I get that.
And vice versa, when people will gaslight when they don't want to take responsibility for their own actions. They'll deflect and gaslight so that they don't have to take responsibility. Again, a very fine line.
Exactly.
And it's also used as a defense mechanism, obviously. Gaslighting is like trying to defend my own honor here. But if I stand up for myself in a conversation, I'm not gaslighting the other person.
No, there's a big difference.
There is a difference. So even though it's a fine line, the distinction really matters. And there's a gray area in this. There is, absolutely. It's an uncomfortable truth that we don't like necessarily saying, but we all do this. We all have gaslighting behavior. Most people at some point minimize somebody else's experience or reframe the situation. Or the thing is, it's about the intention behind doing it. The problem is when it becomes a pattern or a tool or a weapon. That's when gaslighting becomes the issue. When it's weaponized against you to manipulate you into thinking that you are losing your mind or living in a separate reality, or, and there's also there's a difference between self-reflection and gaslighting, because we gaslight ourselves sometimes. And this is really also a very important distinction to make. And I think you'll understand this better as well, is because we are self-aware. So we do a lot of self-reflection. And often when somebody has said something that has hurt your feelings or, has triggered you in some way, we'll reflect on it and we'll actually excuse the other person's behavior by gaslighting ourselves.
Sorry, I had to cough there. I'm not joking. It's just that actually that has hit a aha button. That really has, because that is so true. We're all guilty of that.
Yeah.
So guilty.
Very much so. We gaslight ourselves into going, no, it's not the other person. It's my wound that's been triggered, or it's my ego, or it's this, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes the other person is a douchebag. Sometimes they are. And sometimes both are true. Again, two things can be true at the same time, yeah?
Yeah.
So sometimes the other person is a douchebag, and sometimes you're gaslighting yourself.
True.
And this is where we need to tune into our guts a little bit more, because your intuition will not be gaslighting you. Your intuition will not be going and screaming and shouting at you and fighting with you and arguing with you.
Exactly.
Your intuition whispers. It's the knowing.
Yes. And it's beautiful, because you can then, this is where we again help each other out. We'll talk about that whisper to each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's why having your spiritual friends around you and your friends who understand you is so important, because they know when it's your intuition.
Exactly.
They know because they know you and they can see your blind spots. Yeah? Very interesting.
Exactly.
Very, very interesting. So, getting into this quote. I still think it's really funny. And it's funny because it's self-aware. It's almost like triumphant in nature. Like, I don't need a man to gaslight me. I do that to myself. She's just cut out the middleman.
Oh, I love that one. Oh, gosh.
There's pride in this, Own
it.
But this is, unfortunately, the internalized gaslighting that we were talking about.
Yeah.
When somebody has been gaslit consistently enough and for long enough, when the CPTSD is there, whether it's by a parent or a partner or a caregiver, whatever the case may be, they absorb it. And I think we all are guilty of this in some way, shape, or form. You become your own worst enemy. You abuse yourself. You go into autopilot in your head.
Exactly.
And that's hard. Gaslighting yourself is hard.
But the thing is, it's when you don't recognize that you're doing it. There's a part of you that, I mean, only afterwards, if you understand that you've done it, and you get very angry with yourself because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it happens subconsciously. It's like, think about a kid who grew up in a house where they were constantly made to believe and made to feel that it doesn't matter what they do, they're just not enough. That voice in their head keeps telling them you're not enough, you're not enough, you're not enough. And that carries on into adulthood. And eventually, when they're in a relationship or a partnership or whatever, and they keep working hard and they get to a point of burnout and they still don't feel like they're enough and their whole world comes to a standstill because of it, they still don't necessarily realize that they keep gaslighting themselves into this behavior. You become like, your saboteur is so active because you're so exhausted in trying to prove your worth.
Yeah.
But yet you keep doing it. It's just this like vicious circle. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because it doesn't matter how good you try and be, you still keep telling yourself that you're not good enough.
Exactly. It's actually very sad.
And you'll tell yourself, oh, I'm just being too sensitive, or, oh, I'm overreacting, or, that type of thing. And the long-term effects of this is complete loss of access to your own inner knowing. You second guess everything about yourself. You don't trust yourself anymore. And then it becomes impossible to listen to your intuition, which is what we were touching on earlier. Like,
exactly.
That's when I tell people, don't trust your gut right now, because it's drunk on trauma.
Oh, you know what, that terminology, it is drunk on trauma.
Yeah.
That is good.
But it's true. Your intuition can't function clearly if you can't rely on it and you don't trust yourself and your higher self enough to guide you. It's not possible.
Okay. No.
So yeah, I just want to touch on the saboteur archetype quickly, because I did mention it, and I do realize that not everybody is familiar with the concept. The saboteur is an interesting archetype that shows up for every single human being on the planet. Yeah. And it's not just about self-sabotage, it's also about sabotaging others. And we don't realize that we do this. And this is, again, where the gaslighting comes in. You might do it so subconsciously without realizing it, that because you're sabotaging somebody else out of taking your spotlight away. We don't do this consciously. It's human nature. It's about our relationship to power.
Yeah.
And it comes from a frame of reference. So if you believe you're not good enough, you will sabotage your way into that reality.
That's true.
Not consciously. It happens naturally, subconsciously, without your conscious awareness. And it shatters your self-trust.
Oh, honey. I mean, it's when people are aware of it and they can break that cycle, where they look back and they go, how could I have let that happen to myself?
But this is the whole point. The core belief underneath this wound is, my perception cannot be trusted.
Exactly.
If you really want to go deep into that, that's the core belief underneath this wounding.
Exactly.
It's hard. So, and I think that is probably what makes this one so powerful and so funny. She wore it like a badge of honor. And in a way, the fact that she came to name it's something, yeah? But naming it and healing it are two very different things. And that gap is where a lot of people live. And that's the danger in dark humor.
Well, okay. I mean, the second one, because that one really got me.
Okay, so the second sentence, this is just as a reminder, I've been using AI as a soundboard when I'm struggling, but it's been too nice to me. I want to train it to be meaner and harsher. That feels more like home.
Okay, so this one, I laughed, but then I sat with it and it actually made me a little sad because what does it say about a person that harshness feels more like home than kindness? I mean,
Well, it says everything. And it is one of the most honest things I've ever heard someone say about their own nervous system, even if they didn't know that that was actually what they were saying. Because at the end of the day, when your nervous system has learned from a very young age that harshness and meanness and that kind of behavior feels like home, that tells you a lot. If that's what that person as an adult still has living in their nervous system, there's a lot of pain underneath that. There's a lot of pain underneath that. And I actually want to touch on AI very quickly because a lot of people talk to me about these things, obviously. And a lot of my clients have actually had the chats with AI. And I've gone and I've tested it with AI to see what kind of advice AI gives. And it's not bad advice, don't get me wrong. Some of it's really sound. Like I read some of the advice that AI spat back at me, and I thought, wow, that's pretty good. That's very, very close to what I would have said, actually. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, people need to be mindful what we're putting out there and into this space because it does, I think, open us up to a certain vulnerability of our information and our deepest pain and emotion being out there.
exactly.
For the world to be able to access. So, yeah, that was just something I wanted to touch on.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we have the degree of confidentiality in these things that we believe we do necessarily.
Exactly. True.
But getting back to this and the core wounding underneath it, and how sad it actually is that the human nervous system is conditioned to believe that love equals danger, essentially.
I know. I mean, yeah. Mm-mm.
It becomes very hard because think about it this way. If your home was dangerous growing up, your nervous system equates that danger, that level of intensity, that consistent anxious hum that lives within you, it considers that as safe. It considers that as a homeostasis. And that to me is a scary thought. Because you will push away everything good in your life coming towards you because you think it's a threat.
That's sad, honey. Isn't it also like self-sabotage?
Oh, the saboteur is very active there as well. And this is where it gets so interesting for me because as somebody who works with human connection all the time, I know for a fact that we are wired for connection. We are wired to connect to others. And my core belief is that we learn through connection, we evolve through connection. The whole meaning of life is connection because you can't learn about yourself without connecting with others. It's impossible.
Exactly.
So for me, the meaning of life is connection. And if you push that away, thinking it's dangerous, but yet you are wired to connect, you will connect, but with the wrong people. People who treat you like you were treated growing up, because those are the only people you'll allow in because they feel safe when they are not. And this is where the cycle of abuse just keeps repeating because you have children and they grow up in that environment and they repeat the cycle and And this is why knowing yourself and breaking your patterns is so important. It spills over into future generations as well. And nervous system and self-awareness and understanding all of that and what's familiar and not familiar and knowing your wounding and how it responds and reacts. That's why this is so important. That's why this work matters. It's not about you. It's about your kids.
And then that's something later on, at some point, we'll touch on in depth. So I think people need to understand how people can get to the point of realization.
Oh, I agree with you. I agree with you. And you don't have to go through this to the point where it forces you into a space of surrender. You don't actually have to force that. You can do that voluntarily. You actually get to do that voluntarily. You don't have to. You get to. And putting that baggage down frees up your capacity for life and for happiness and for joy and for creativity and for love. And most importantly, for healing. So, yeah, this is a deep one. It's a very deep wound. And this is deep nervous system work. I mean, this lady spoke to AI instead of another human being. She felt safer to speak to AI than to a human therapist.
That's sad.
At that point in time. But do you understand the flip side of this? Because do you know how hard that makes a therapist's job? When you have a client coming in and they need the warm, nurturing environment, but they reject it.
I mean, how do you deal with that?
Look, I am a very straight shooter with my clients. I am. I'm very honest, and I do call them on their bullshit. It's my job to do that. I just try and do it with compassion and tact as much as possible. But sometimes that doesn't work. And it's up to me as the therapist to read the room and adapt accordingly. This is not a one-size-fits-all approach. I say that all the time. I have to adapt. It's not about my belief system or my personality it's about authentically being myself, yes, but adapting to the style that the client needs.
Exactly.
And if that's what they need, then I have to step into that role. And if I cannot step into that role, it is my job to refer them to somebody who can.
Yeah.
At the very least, be honest and say, I can't do that for you. At the very least, that's my job. But yeah, it's also for me, looking at this specific scenario, there's this interesting parallel because sometimes those people, well, not sometimes actually, it's always.
Yeah.
Those people just need a hug. They just need a hug. And because of the world we live in, it's become difficult to actually just go up to somebody and give them a hug. It's not a good thing anymore, and it's personal space, and it's this and it's that. But I don't know, has this ever happened to you, Candice, where you've walked past somebody in public and you've just gone, gosh, I wish I could actually just go and give that person a hug because it feels like they need it?
Oh, yes, 100%.
And there has been once or twice where I've actually done it and people think I'm nuts. It's actually really funny to watch their reactions. But it's sort of frowned upon in society. And if you think about this whole scenario, in attachment styles, this would be your classic avoidant.
Exactly.
Fearful avoidant, not fearful, dismissive avoidant. This is your person who pushes everything that might mean anything deep to them, they'll push away because it's not safe.
It's true. I actually went through something very similar where we had just met a client and she was going through something really horrible. She'd lost her husband and she was in a complete state. And at the end of it, I actually said to her, would you like a hug? Can I give you a hug? And she turned around and she just went, no, I can't. But that's because she explained it later, feeling guilt, like bad about it, saying that she would have broken down.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I avoid hugs and stuff sometimes if I know that I'm going to actually start crying. Because remember, I'm a therapist. I don't cry in public. I only cry in the shower because nobody can see it and my cheeks are already wet.
Okay, I'm sorry, but now I've got visions of you crying in the shower, and then there's all this 80s music in the background that's so dramatic going on.
I don't really cry in the shower, but you know what I mean.
It's okay if you do. It's okay
No,
if you
I
do.
actually cry in the bath. That's my safe space.
Really? I think, oh gosh, I think I cry in the car.
I cry wherever I have to cry, I suppose. But the thing is that sometimes we don't want to become emotional in front of other people. Sometimes we want to not show that part of ourselves. And look, the one place I do cry easily is in session with my clients. I cry with them. Honestly, I do. And when I meet new clients, I actually tell them, don't feel funny about it. It's just my empathy. But do you see how I do exactly what we're discussing with myself?
Yes, I do. I do.
I'm also just a human being.
Of course you are.
So yes, this becomes challenging when you try and maintain any kind of connection. If you have this as your fundamental belief and your core wounding, this becomes really challenging to have a relationship with anyone in any kind of whether it's in business, whether it's in your personal life, this is a challenge. And the core belief underneath this wounding is I don't deserve to be treated gently. How scary is that?
Well, it's very scary because the thing is, if you don't know what someone's going through, their reaction to something, makes you think that they're being completely unreasonable or rude, when actually it's because of what you've just said.
Yeah, and what scares me even more is that imagine if, and this is hard in therapy, especially because we do our best. We create this warm environment. And I am by nature quite a warm, nurturing person. I have a Cancerian descendant. It just is there. So it's hard. But if that triggers hypervigilance in someone,
Yeah,
that is challenging, not just in a therapeutic sense, but in a personal sense. Yeah. Imagine having a friend. You have a good friend, but their hypervigilance is triggered by you showing care.
exactly.
Never mind having that with a partner. It's hard. It's really hard. And that's where it gets misconstrued because that person is traumatized.
Exactly.
It's not about them being a bad human being. They are traumatized. So I think one of the reasons this is funny is because of the specificity of this actual sentence. Gosh, that word.
That was long. Yeah, it's a big word.
Don't ask me to repeat it, please. She's not asking for a harsher friend or a tougher conversation. She's asking a machine to be meaner. She's not asking she's asking a machine. And that tells you everything about how deep this runs. Because it's not about the relationship. It's about the feeling. It's about what home feels like in her body, what makes her feel comfortable in her body. And that is an interesting concept.
Yeah.
It's heavy when you think about it like that, right?
Oh, it is.
And it was said completely as a joke, which was exactly the point. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So on to the next one. Okay, so this one really made me laugh because it's something I would say, and I could still remember her face. I mean, she said this to me a few years ago, so it's not a recent thing, but it's stuck with me because it resonates. I don't wait for things to fall apart. I just give them a little nudge to get it over with.
Oh gosh. I mean, okay, so this last one, I just give them a little nudge. I feel like this one is the most relatable of all three because I think most people have done this at some point.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Most people have. And most people have absolutely no idea that they're doing it while it's happening, which is what makes this so interesting and worth talking about. This is ending the relationship before they get too close to save yourself from the heartbreak. That's what this is.
Gosh.
That's what this looks like in real life. It's sabotaging your way out of a beautiful relationship because it's going to end anyway, right?
Yeah.
They're going to leave anyway.
Totally.
I'm not good enough. Why would they stick around?
Yeah, I mean, that one, I'm not good enough. Why would they stick around? That's something I used to go through constantly.
It's a hard one. It's a really hard one. And then the belief that nothing good will last.
Yeah.
Like everything ends anyway. People leave, everyone. And look, that is the sad truth of life. Everybody does leave. Whether they leave while they're alive or whether they pass over, they leave. That is the sad reality of life, yes. But that doesn't mean you should stop yourself from having a meaningful connection.
Oh, exactly. Oh, exactly.
Better to have loved than lost than never to have loved at all.
Ooh, check you quoting.
That was funny because I had one of these old rom-coms playing through my head. That was really fun.
Okay, the way you just laughed there was really dark.
I know, because that's so not me. I am not the girl who watches romantic comedies.
You don't. You're
really
like
don't.
me. Titanic. Push her. Like a little meme you see with the cat. Just push her.
Push her.
Push her.
Talk about nudging something.
Just push.
But yeah, that is what this is. And that is also hypervigilance when somebody is nice to you, when things feel unfamiliar. So the root of the word unfamiliar and familiar is familial, right? We're always going to gravitate towards something that feels familiar, even if it's shitty.
Yes, exactly. Looking back at myself. Yeah, 100%.
And again, the saboteur is active. We self-sabotage by walking away before we get hurt or before the other person leaves. And look, that's all of this to me is linked to the ego because you're trying to escape before your ego gets bruised.
Exactly.
And I mean, there's a lot of core wounding in this, the wound of abandonment, the rejection wound, all of that's in here. We can see that because sometimes, and this is what people don't understand, is one belief, one core belief can play into 3 or 4 different wounds.
Yeah.
So, it becomes a challenge to sometimes decipher all of it. But if you are somebody who grew up in an unstable household and moved a lot, for argument's sake, let's say your dad was in the armed forces and you needed to move around a lot. So every time you settled down in a place and made friends as a child, you had to move again. And those circumstances were beyond your control, obviously, because you weren't in charge. It was up to your parents. That would cause this kind of belief system because if you think about it, like every time you get comfortable, every time you feel like, okay, I belong here and you make friends, it gets ripped away from you.
Exactly.
And that's really hard to deal with. And what that manifests into it later in life is exactly that, the isolation, the hypervigilance, the ending connections and friendships and relationships before they decide to end it and hurt you, not allowing things to get too deep, having your guard up all the time. It's hard. It's a hard one to deal with. And not a lot of people like looking this one in the eye at all.
No.
They don't like facing this one because why would you do that to yourself, right? It's hard to acknowledge that you would sabotage yourself out of being happy. It's actually really hard to accept that kind of behavior from yourself. Yes. And this is where the inner child healing is so important. Inner child healing is very, very important. And looking at this one, what gets me about it every time is the little nudge, because it's such a small, casual way to describe something that is actually really a significant pattern. And that minimization, that, oh, it's nothing, it's just a little nudge, that's part of the wound too. Because if we make it small enough, we never have to look at it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, what do we do with all of this? Because I feel like our listeners are going to be sitting with a lot right now.
Oh, good. If they're sitting with a lot, it means it's landed. Let's talk about what to actually take away from this. So we've laughed, we've gone deep, and hopefully some of you are sitting there going, oh, that's me. And if you are, good. That recognition is the beginning of everything. I normally leave you with 3 key takeaways at the end of my episode, but today we have 5 because the conversation earned it, I think. And I think every single one of these are too important to be left unsaid.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So jumping into that, the first thing I would say is that humor is information for yourself. Like, use it as an arrow. If you know you have a sense of humor and you tend to go dark, and that, investigate it. Humor is information, and it's the same with other people in your life. The jokes they tell, the things they joke about, the things they minimize, pay attention to that. It's information.
Yeah.
So next time you tell me a joke, just be mindful.
Oh gosh, here we go. Just going to be diagnosing me and saying,
oh, I've done that a long time ago. No cure for what you have.
Oh no.
Okay, so the second one I think is, and this is really important, your nervous system is telling you the truth about what it has learned in the past, not about what is actually true in the moment. You are responding to past things. They're not happening now. It's not important anymore. You are safe in the moment, right?
Yeah. So, yeah.
Agreed? What do you think is the third one?
I think the third one will be, what about awareness?
Self-awareness. And
yeah,
the big thing about this is that it's not the destination. It's just the beginning. And self-awareness is the key to everything. Absolutely. You cannot heal what you're not aware of. You cannot, if you haven't acknowledged and met yourself at a certain level, how can you heal that? It's impossible.
That's very true.
So awareness, self-awareness is the key, but it's not the destination, because you can be the most self-aware person in the room and still be the most traumatized and unhealed, because self-awareness doesn't magically break the cycle and heal the wound. So it's the beginning. It's definitely the beginning. Right. This is important. The fourth one. Nobody has it all together. No one. Not one single person walking the face of this planet. Not the Pope, not the Dalai Lama, not your therapist.
Yeah.
Nobody has it all together.
Well, if you said you had it all together, I'd have to highly disagree.
Not just with me, with anyone.
Anyone.
I don't think that anybody has it all together. And if you do, and you say you do, I think you're lying.
Oh, 100%.
There's something you're not looking at, because I'm convinced that the moment you feel like you have it all together, your life is over. What is left to learn then?
Well, exactly. That's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? somebody else we know that does it all the time.
Look, at the end of the day, right? I also think that a very important point to this episode is being mindful and careful with the language you borrow from pop psychology. It's actually dangerous. If I have to tell you the amount of time I sit in session and have somebody tell me that their partner or their boss or somebody is gaslighting them, and when I ask them to explain the definition of gaslighting, it's not nearly close to what the actual definition is. It doesn't mean the other person is treating them nicely, but it's not gaslighting.
Yeah.
And I need people to start understanding and being mindful of the fact that throwing around a term like that is rather like damaging to somebody else's reputation.
Absolutely.
When they are not necessarily actually using it as a weapon against you. It's just their general normal human behavior. And I'm going to say something that is rather controversial right now, but I think to a lot of people. And I don't use it as an excuse for other people's behavior at all. It doesn't mean that the other people are completely innocent and washed free from their sins that they've committed. That's not what I'm doing here. But what I'm saying is that a lot of people who are narcissists and who do gaslight and who do harmful things on purpose are deeply, deeply traumatized human beings.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we should show compassion for their behavior, because everybody has trauma. It doesn't mean I go out and murder other people. That's not what I'm not saying that's okay. But I'm saying somewhere in your heart, you need to find a space with a little bit of compassion too, even for those people. Even for those people. And what pop psychology has done is it's made terms like gaslighting everyday terminology when it shouldn't be, in my opinion. And I know I probably piss off a whole lot of people by what I've just said.
No, I agree.
I piss off a lot of people, but that is what I believe. And I don't point fingers at other people for believing differently to me. Of course, that's not what I'm doing here, but I'm sharing my opinion. So before we go, in the spirit of everything we have talked about today, I want to give you the last word, Candice, and I want you to be funny, because I think we can use that after what we've just discussed.
You ready for it?
Come on, give it to me.
Are you sure you want to hear this one?
Give it to me.
Okay, on self-sabotage. Yeah, I'm not self-destructive. I just have a very competitive relationship with my own future. You like that one? What do we think about that one?
Oh, I love that.
Agree to disagree.
I think it's true for both of us. Yeah?
I'd like to think so.
I
really
love
like
it.
to think so.
Absolutely love it.
I mean, if I can throw one more in the mix.
Go for it.
Right? I mean, the other thing is on therapy, right? In therapy speak in general, I've done so much shadow work, I'm basically eclipsed at this point. With all the astrological stuff going on at the moment. I just felt that was good to use.
And can I just remind you, we are leading into eclipse season.
After
what? August, September.
That's so much, isn't it?
Or September, October. September, October. Maybe I'm too quick. But there is a lot going on astrologically speaking. We've got a lot happening. I mean, Jupiter's moved, Mercury's retrograde, Mercury Sun Casmi in Gemini, with Mercury being retrograde. There's just Venus meeting the South Node in Virgo.
The fact that you can remember all this stuff boggles my mind, honestly.
You know, what's funny though for me is that it no longer scares me.
Remembering everything?
No, not the remembering part. That I'm still proud of. No, it used to scare me when I used to look at the astrology in the sky and what was happening and like how this energy can show up in the collective and in my life and in your life. And it used to scare me. And now I'm just like, oh, here we go again.
Hold on tight.
Hold tight. Anyway, on that note, thank you so much for being here today and for listening to Candice and I. Thank you, Candice, for being here with me today and for sharing episode 10 with me, which I also can't believe.
Big milestone.
To everyone listening, be gentle with yourself and trust your process. Remember that your wounds are your spiritual curriculum, and we will see you again next time. Thank you, dear soul, for joining me on Back to the Beginning. If this episode resonated with you, please rate this podcast and share it with somebody else who needs the message. When you rate this podcast and take a screenshot, send it to us via DM on Instagram and we'll send you a free healing resource as our gift to you. Find all our programs and connect with me at www.expergotherapy.com, where transformation meets practical reality. Until next time, remember, you have everything within you to heal and connect authentically. See you next episode.